We can say is design, like just like from a blank slate, is what we make as humans, what we make. We say that is design, and we see that and say that actually that deserves a designer. Okay? Things in nature, we can't just like say that that's design. All right? We recognize that it's complex, but we've never observed anybody design the grass or design the rain. So we can't just like extrapolate our idea of design to everything else in the world. Like, what I'm basically saying is that the things in nature that are complex could just as easily come about without a designer than with a designer. Either way, we haven't observed it and we can't prove it, and the evidence doesn't really point one way or another.
Okay, I have a younger brother who transplants livers and kidneys. I can promise you, he has studied the order of the human body to such an extent that people trust him to transplant their liver or their kidney. There is incredible order and design to the human body. Is it more reasonable to believe that that order and design comes about by chance, or is it more reasonable to believe that that order and design comes about as a result of an intelligent mind?
All right, I got a claim. I have a claim that God is not eternal, that God is a living being, that he will die, that he was born, okay? Because everything in this universe had a beginning, was born, was created, and then eventually dies and is destroyed. Everything on this entire planet, and even what we observe in the universe, follows the same laws. Therefore, our designer, will say that there is a designer, our designer follows the same laws. He had a beginning, and he will have an end. That's exactly what you're telling us with the creation and design. That's the same form of argument.
I'm not saying that.
It is. You're saying that everything has a design, everything has a creator.
No, I didn't say that. I said everything that has a beginning has a cause. Everything that has a beginning has a cause. Obviously, if the evidence was that the universe is eternal, then I could not use the Big Bang as a piece of evidence that God exists.
That's not necessarily true.
The Big Bang shows us that the universe is not eternal, which means the universe has to have a cause.
There is a theory of it.
But it's possible for there to be an uncaused cause. And that this uncaused cause is God.
Why is it God?
That's what he just said. He was like, uncaused cause.
I'm just calling the uncaused cause God. I don't care. You don't have to call it God.
Can it be
Thank you so much.
But why does it have to be an intelligent?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
So
it doesn't have to be anything. The question is, what does the evidence point to?
All right. So can we agree that just as plausible as a great designer, an eternal designer, an unconscious phenomenon that we don't understand could have caused the beginning of the universe and everything that we know?
If that was the only piece of evidence that I have for God, yes. But obviously, I'm saying that my observation is life comes from life. It doesn't come from non-life. And I see life around me. Therefore, there's this uncaused cause got to be a living being. In the Quran, we read, Jesus is a good prophet. He is not God. The problem is the historical Jesus claimed to be God.
That could be an internal contradiction. Is on one page it says something, on a different page it says something else. Like the gentleman that left mentioned about the creation.
You're right.
Creation came
the
about.
Quran does not contradict itself. I agree.
So then
But
we'll
it
go to
contradicts
point number
the
two.
historical evidence that Jesus claimed to be God.
Claimed. From what, John and Joseph and Mike and whoever?
That's right, man. And that's the only thing. That's the only way I can know anything historically. Historical knowledge is based on the trustworthiness of eyewitness testimony.
So then why take what John and those people said 500 years before what Muhammad came?
That's exactly why I trust John, because he lived with Jesus. Muhammad was the dude who never met Jesus. John met Jesus, listened to Jesus.
But doesn't it come with time that things like that become more inaccurate? Jesus' book isn't here. Jesus' book is not here.
Yes, the Gospels
The
of
same
Matthew,
way.
Mark, Luke, and John
The
were written
same-
in the first century.
Okay, Moses' book,
Eyewitnesses.
the
That's what I want when it comes to
Torah.
historical
Moses'
knowledge.
book, the Torah, right? Did Jesus believe in the Torah? Did Jesus follow Moses?
Yes, Jesus
And-
believed the Torah was the Word of God, very
So
clearly.
then why do you accept Jesus as a successor of Moses and you don't accept Muhammad as a successor of Jesus?
Because Muhammad contradicted Jesus.
But you don't have any way to tell whether or not what Jesus came with is the exact same as what Moses came with, because the book Moses came with is not the same today as it was at the time. Can you agree with me on that?
No, that made no sense
Yes,
to me.
of
I'm
course
sorry,
it
I'm not
did.
smart enough to figure out
Of
what you
course
just
it
said
did.
there. Makes no sense to me.
Okay,
What
do
on
you,
earth did
right
you just
now,
say?
Right now, the book that Moses came with.
Yes?
Do you agree Jesus
He didn't
memorized
come with
it?
anything. He wrote something.
He didn't write anything. It was revealed to him.
Baloney. Moses
It was
wrote.
revealed to him.
No book floated out of
So
heaven to
then what
Moses.
makes him a prophet?
Moses wrote.
What makes him a prophet? The fact that he was a self-claimed prophet, he was a good writer? There's plenty of good writers. That doesn't make them prophets.
Goodness gracious, man. No way.
What
Do I
is your
accept this
definition of a
kind
prophet?
of floating out of heaven
What?
book that you do?
No one's saying it's floating out of heaven.
Well, then
told
what are
that
you
it's
saying?
revealed through angels. Do you believe
Moses
in angels?
wrote. No, an angel didn't write the Torah.
No one said
Moses
an angel
wrote it.
No
Wrote it,
one
not
said
an angel.
wrote it.
And no
one-
angel wrote the New Testament either. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Peter, James wrote the New Testament.
So what makes someone a prophet? And not a random great writer.
What makes someone a prophet is that God inspires them. And there's absolutely no way that I can show you who a prophet is. If this guy claims to be a prophet, I can't just blindly say, yes, he's a prophet, or no, he's not a prophet. I have to observe how he lives his life. I have to listen to what he believes.
And 500 people for you is good enough for that. As long as 500 people say he's a prophet, we're good. We're golden.
No, that's your argument. I'm not standing
That's
here
what you
saying
said
anybody's a
before.
prophet. Your argument is
Follow me
Muhammad's a
to
prophet.
Scientology!
So again, we'll talk about what makes someone a prophet. Your definition of a prophet, and I'll follow with mine. You said a good writer.
No, I didn't.
But again, so we're
A
all on the
prophet
same
is
page.
someone who's inspired by God, but I can't show you that someone's inspired by God. It's impossible.
So this is something in your own heart.
I can't show you that a book is inspired by God. And don't you understand? That's why it's so
So
hard
then
for you
how-
and me to have
Oh,
an
it is.
intelligent conversation.
Okay.
Because you just lapse into,
Can I answer?
this
can
is
I
inspired
answer
by
your-
God,
can I
this is
answer
from
your-
God, this is from an angel.
Well,
Well,
listen.
fine, but there's no way you can show that.
Okay, you're here right now. The purpose of you coming here is to quote unquote guide misguided people. I talked to the people who brought you and they said your point is not to convert people to Christianity. Your point is to get atheists and agnostics to believe in Jesus.
No,
Yeah.
and you, I pray
Well,
you
then-
come to believe in
then-
Jesus,
I
man.
believe in Jesus. I don't
You
believe
reject
in
him
Jesus
as
how
God.
You
You
do.
don't accept his death
I
on the
believe
cross
in
for your
Jesus.
sin.
Okay, but we'll stop. We'll go here. You're here to take people to believe in Jesus. But you just said right now that you can't explain to someone that a book is inspired by God or someone else is inspired by God. So why are you here?
There is absolutely no way that any human being can prove that any book has been inspired by God.
Then why are you here to tell us to believe in the Bible?
Because I am convinced that to believe in God and to believe in Jesus does not mean you have to first believe that a book is inspired by God.
So I'm supposed
You
to take
cannot
you
blindly
as the
believe
reference
anything
between
in
me
life.
and Jesus?
And to blindly believe that the Quran or the Bible or any book has been inspired by God is such a leap of faith. I'm not asking anybody to do that.
Okay, so can we have the second part of our deal? I said I'd explain to you what a prophet is.
Sure.
A prophet is someone who comes with something extraordinary that combats everything at the time in proof of his claim. So many people came claiming they were prophets, and they did things that didn't prove their claim. The prophet came, Prophet Muhammad, first of all, we'll start off with Jesus, who we both agree with. Jesus was born without a father.
How do you know that?
Miracle number one.
How do you know that?
Revealed in the Quran, and when he spoke.
Revealed in the
No,
Quran
no.
500 years after
Listen,
the
when
fact.
he spoke-
All of a sudden, because some dude says he was born without a father, you believe it?
Okay, fine. You don't believe that Jesus was born without a father. You don't
I can
believe-
promise you, ma'am, I'm not going to believe Jesus was born without a father because some dude who lived 500 years after Christ writes it in a book.
Okay, stop right there. Forget everything about Muhammad. Do Christians believe that Jesus was born without a father?
Yeah, but not because some dude 500 years after the fact wrote it, that's for sure.
But then what do they take as their belief for Jesus being born without a
Because
father?
eyewitnesses who knew Jesus' mother, a woman named Mary, talked with her. They talked with Joseph, and they found out that indeed Mary was a virgin when Jesus was born.
So then we take
It's not something they made up 500 years later.
Okay, so then
It's something that they found from eyewitness talking.
So do we take that? We take Jesus being born without a father as a miracle. That's proof
Yes.
he's a prophet. That's proof he's a prophet, correct?
No,
Why?
just because a miracle happens doesn't mean the dude's a prophet.
Why?
He could be a false
So
prophet.
then why
Miracles happen to
why
false
doesn't your mom
prophets.
have a son without a father? What miracles happen to false prophets? We'll go over that right now. What miracles happen to false prophets?
Man, if you get in the occult, you can go to seances, and demonic powers are shown, supernatural powers are shown. You can go a lot of places on this planet.
But we're
How
not
are they
talking about
shown?
magic.
How
We're
are they
not talking about
shown?
magic.
How are they shown?
Yeah, how are they shown? Like,
All right,
how,
I'll tell you how.
factually.
You
How
bet.
can you show it in substance?
You bet.
No, answer.
I went to a
Not
prep
just-
school.
No, answer.
I am answering you.
Come on.
I went to
Where
a
can you
prep
find it
school
factually, though?
here in Connecticut, and I had a philosophy professor who went to a seance. And at the seance, the medium told him things about his past that it took him 2 weeks to remember had even occurred. This philosophy professor came
And
to our
psychologists
class.
have done that too with sexual abuse cases where they convince their clients of a history that never happened. So how do you know that's not the case? How can you prove that it's true?
You got to use your brain to figure out what
Okay,
might
so
be
then that
irrational
means
or
that,
rational.
that's on the premise that you're using your brain.
Yeah, that is on a premise.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Why are you wasting your time listening to a guy who's just gibbering?
You're in our way.
You're missing out. This is my problem.
I'm
I'll answer
sorry,
that
I didn't
question.
realize that your
No.
ankle had a chain tied to the brick underneath
I'll
there.
answer that question.
I was under the impression that you chose to be here freely.
He did choose to be
Let me
here.
relieve you if you're being forced to be here.
Oh, I'm not. I'm enjoying
All
your
right.
company.
But listen,
Thank
my problem here is you're here talking loudly, first of all. You're not having a small conversation with the group that brought you here in a small room, which most groups have. You're obnoxiously on the center of campus,
Yeah.
misguiding people about your belief in
Baloney. And I'm exercising my right of free speech. And if I tried to stand up in Iran or Iraq or Afghanistan and do what I'm doing now, I'd be in prison before I knew what
And
my
it's a great
name
thing I'm an
was.
American citizen and born
Okay.
on this soil.
Good.
Great thing, isn't it?
All right.
Now, what do you take that as right there? As blindly naming Iran and Iraq and Afghanistan?
Blindly?
because you
I'm
see a
not
scarf
blindly
on
at
my
all.
head? That's ignorant. That's an ignorant move on your part. Because I have no correlation with Iran or Iraq or Afghanistan.
I didn't say you did.
Then why bring it up?
I'll tell you
Just
what.
random countries?
Because you
can't do
two were
this in South
challenging
Korea
my
or
no.
Japan.
So every
I'm
time I
not
try and answer you, you
irrational.
cut me off.
I'm not irrational.
Yes, you are. You don't really want to reason and think.
Because
you
you're
just
not
want to
a person
emote.
to reason. I'm not emotional.
Oh no!
I'm not
Oh,
emotional.
give me a break.
I know my life.
You were challenging free speech. He said I was in his way.
No, I wasn't challenging. I was using my own free speech to question yours.
Oh, you can do that
is
all
part
day
of
long.
free
I respect
speech.
that.
So then,
That's
okay.
not-
And my
Okay.
point is, free speech
I was making
is a
an
right
argument,
that we
though.
have in the United States of America.
Correct. In
That
the
I
United
celebrate.
States, you look crazy right now.
Pardon?
Hold on
You
one
look
second.
crazy in the United States, and if you went to Iran or Iraq, you look crazy there as well. You
So hold on.
Well, then why are you wasting your time talking to a crazy man?
Because you are just, it's just entertaining.
Entertaining?
What's your purpose here? Why are
Because
you
they had
here?
better entertainment on this campus than to talk to a
Have
crazy
you been
man?
to stores? Have you been to stores?
You guys are hurting people.
Why are you here? What did you come
I am here to introduce people to the closest friend I have, Jesus Christ.
You are condemning, what, 2/3 of the rest of the world to hell. And there are some good people in the 2/3 of the rest, some good Buddhists, some good Jews, some people that believe in Islam that are very good people that are deserving of whatever reward they should get. And the problem with every religion has a way of excluding people that do not believe in exactly what they believe. It's a different version of the same thing.
Okay.
Except everyone has their own little password to get in. And once you say that only because the only way to heaven is through Jesus, you have now excluded and therefore dehumanized everybody else that does not accept Jesus. And you know what? That's wrong. period.
Okay. According to you, who goes to heaven?
According to the Bible, the only way to heaven is through me, is through Jesus Christ. That's from the Bible.
Okay, so you have a problem with that. You've articulated that very clearly.
Yes, I do.
So, according to you, who goes to heaven?
Okay, we're not debating whether I even think heaven exists or not. That's not the point.
Do you think heaven exists?
I asked you a question to start this off, so don't flip it back on me.
Oh, I'll answer any question you ask.
Answer my question.
I'll answer it. Sure.
All right.
I'll answer any question. Truth, all truth, smacks of exclusivity. The statement 2 + 2 = 4 is incredibly exclusive.
If I don't believe in Jesus, am I going to heaven?
Are you allowing me to answer your question or not?
Yes or no? It's yes or no, not 2 + 2.
I'm sorry, I don't
Yes or
give
no.
yes/no answers.
All right. You know why?
If you can reduce,
Because you're full of it.
and that's not judgmental, and that's being kind. That's being kind and not judgmental. What you just did to me.
What I'm telling you is that you are judging everybody else that does not agree with you, and that
You
is
have not
wrong.
even listened to my answer. You don't know what I'm doing.
You are preaching. You are not preaching something new here, sir. You're preaching something that's been preached and has been the reason why people have been murdered in catastrophic numbers from the history of mankind. You are this one little step away from saying that because you don't agree with me and because you're not going to heaven, your life is somehow worth less because you've made a choice that excludes you from heaven anyway.
And have you listened to my answer?
That's how people justify.
You said you
car
answered a
bombing.
question. You asked a question. You wanted me to answer it. Have you listened to my answer?
Your answer is yes or no, and now you're gonna skirt around the issue and not answer it. And you know what? I have to go somewhere. I don't have time to just listen to your answer right now. I'd like to know what your answer is.
Yes or no?
The version of what you're doing right now is the same thing you see in every other religion, and that's why right now people will strap bombs to their back, walk into a market, and kill everybody. Why? Because they're infidels. They're not going to heaven anyway, right? So what's the use? That you might as well kill them now, right? That's the same thing that happens in the Middle East right now. It's the same mentality that you're preaching right now to everybody else right here. It's one little step away. That's all. That's all it is.
All right, let me kind of tell you why I disagree with that.
Yes.
All right. I can promise you that if you put your faith in Jesus Christ, in light of the fact that as he was bleeding and dying on a cross, he prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do."
Yes.
If you claim to put your faith in that Jesus Christ, there is absolutely no way that you can persecute, kill any human being in the name of your religion. Because if you genuinely follow Christ, you are genuinely following the one who in his dying moment, as he's being excruciatingly executed by crucifixion, he prays, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do."
Said the first thing about taking a book as a proof for your belief. You said no internal contradictions. How well do you know this book? I got this from your friend the other day. It's the Bible for all of you who don't know. I don't know which version it is. I don't know who's writing, who decided what to put it in here. John, we'll read John 1:17, 18. Do you know this one? I'll read what it says here. It says, "No one has ever seen God, but God is the one and only who is at the Father's side has made him known." Right here, it says, no one has ever seen God, okay? Mm-hmm. You believe that? You take that? You want to read it? That's your book. This is what you take.
You bet.
Right here, same chapter, John 5:19.
Right?
Jesus, it says here, Jesus gave them this answer. "I tell you the truth, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can do only what he sees his Father doing. No one sees, he only does what he sees." Internal contradiction. So then this book has internal contradictions. Can we agree on that? Oh, you don't say yes or no answers. What do you say about this internal contradiction?
One of the basic principles of interpreting any book is you have to read in context. And obviously, when you read John chapter 1, the main point is Jesus is God in human form. He begins.
But
in
then-
the begin.
but then-
Ma'am, am I allowed to answer you or not?
But you're not making sense. You say the same
well,
thing
then why are
over
you
and
wasting
over
your
and
time
over
standing here
again.
talking to me if I'm not
Because look
making
at all
sense?
these people here who have questions. There's
Fine,
too
then why
many
don't you let me
people
go on to
here
other
where you
people?
miss-
If I don't make sense, ma'am,
am I
why
gonna
do you
let
waste your time?
Why am I going to let you misguide them with your misguidance?
Oh,
I'd
I
rather
see.
sit here and
So
use
you have to
logic
sort of
and
be a
understand
parasite
it.
who comes in here and just feeds off the people who are listening to me talk?
Absolutely. Why not? You've
Well,
already
that's
made a
pretty
fool
sad.
of yourself here anyways.
Why, that's pretty sad.
I'm
Why
not
can't
gonna
you just
own
be
to
open
you.
and honest and have an honest dialogue?
Let me explain this.
Yep,
Go ahead.
okay.
Explain this.
Thank you.
Okay.
John chapter 1. John begins with the words, "In the beginning was the Word." and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Crystal clearly, John 1:1 is stating the deity of Christ. The word there is Christ. The Greek word is logos. Obviously, by reading John 1, you know he's talking about Christ. Obviously, he's hearkening right back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, which says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. John is taking that and putting it in Greek. John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Nobody has seen God. I haven't seen God. You haven't seen God. But the claim of John is, and the claim of Jesus is, that he is God, revealing himself in human form. That's clearly, unmistakably what John 1 is teaching. And you don't have to have a PhD in New Testament. Just read it yourself, and you'll figure that out.
John. It's both John. I didn't flip to even a different chapter. It's 2 pages away. Both John saying, one saying no one sees God, the other one saying Jesus sees God. Is it saying Jesus sees himself? Is this something that everyone who reads the Bible
that's exactly right. Jesus is claiming to be God, revealing himself in human form. That's his claim.
And he sees himself.
No, you're
Why
not
would
God.
John write that?
You're not God. What's the difference? Well, if you die and rise from the dead, I will listen very closely to everything you have to say.
Why is that the one thing that you take? Why
Did
don't
you
you
see
take
George Washington inaugurated first president of the United States?
Other people did. I trust that.
Good, and other people saw Christ die on a cross and they saw him risen from the dead.
But they have internal contradictions.
No,
within
there's
their
no
same
contradiction
chapter.
there. We human beings do not see God, but when God chose to become a human being in Jesus Christ, obviously Jesus knew the Father very, very intimately, very, very well.
I was raised a Catholic, and I think Jesus was a fantastic man that everybody should learn about his life.
How did you find out about Jesus?
I was taught
By whom?
through going to church and my family.
So why did you trust a priest in a Catholic church and your family to tell you the accurate truth about Jesus?
Really, because religion perpetuates brainwashing. That's the only way to say it. When you take a child and you teach them from day one that they have to go to church once a week, and it's just like learning a language. If you ask me to speak Chinese right now, I'm not going to be able to do it. But if I grew up in China, it would be second nature to me. Religion, think about baptism, okay? What is baptism? Why is it so important? Why was the idea that baptism is everything so perpetuated? You know what baptism is? You are making the choice for a child that can't even make up its mind yet. You see? You've already indoctrinated them into a belief system.
Where does Jesus talk about infant baptism? Where does Paul or Peter or James talk about infant baptism?
How about John?
Where does anywhere in the Bible is infant baptism talked about? So I agree with you. You see, sir, we agree. Infant baptism is found nowhere in the Bible.
Okay.
So my question remains on the table, sir. What is your source of information about Jesus? Why did you trust that source? Be it the Catholic priest, be it your mom and dad?
Okay, fine. Yes.
What if we say
because I
Muhammad?
was raised since this big to know and taught. That's why you trusted.
Okay? I had to be a skeptic. I was not going to trust mom and dad and the local priest or minister to tell me the truth about Jesus. I have to go to the eyewitness testimonies.
Okay.
Which have been
That's
changed.
That's right,
since they were
sir.
written.
I am
That's a
not
whole
going to
other
build
debate.
my life on what mom and dad tell me.
That's a whole other debate because the Bible
You
has
have
been
to
rewritten
think
about
things
4
through
times.
yourself.
All right. Well, you just mentioned to me that the Bible has been rewritten many times, and pieces of it have been excluded and are still being found right now. So what you're saying is that your first-hand source that you're talking about has been used. King James rewrote the Bible for a reason. Okay. And before our political systems were able to control the masses, religion controlled the masses. Religion was government.
All right. King James in the early 1600s did not translate the Hebrew Old Testament or the Greek New Testament. He didn't know the languages.
I'm not saying he did it himself. He was the king. He told someone
Hebrew
to do
scholars and Greek scholars.
it. Right. Okay.
They did not change anything.
How do you know?
Because I've studied the Hebrew Old Testament and the Greek New Testament.
Do you know Hebrew and Greek?
I had to learn Hebrew and Greek in seminary.
The way that they taught,
And I
the way that
know
they spoke it at
that the
time
Old
that it was
Testament was
revealed.
written in Hebrew and the New Testament was written in Greek. Now, you raise a great question, which is, why should we trust Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John to give us accurate historical information? Hopefully you have some tests, sir, that you use to determine historical reliability. Myself, I've got 4 tests. I use them on Suetonius, Herodotus, U.S. history, Greek history, any history. Nothing sacred about my tests. Come up with your own. My 4 tests are internal consistency, meaning by that, are there contradictions within the text that point to massive confusion? When you read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you'll notice a tremendous internal consistency. No contradictions. Different perspectives? Yes. Second test, literary style. Once upon a time in the land of Nod, wink and blink and Nod took a boat ride. Obviously, that's fairy tale. It's not the literary style of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John use historical narrative, like a newspaper reportage, as literary style. Third test, archaeology. Are we talking about Jesus and the island of Atlantis? No. We're talking about archaeologically verifiable Bethlehem, Nazareth, Jerusalem, Rome, Sea of Galilee. Fourth test. Come on, man. 2,000 years ago, in the 1st century, these guys write these Gospels. Haven't you ever played telephone? You whisper a secret in the ear of the person next to you. They whisper it in the ear of the person next to them. Yes, I played that game. Yes, the secret's totally perverted. That is not how we have the Gospels handed down to us. Sir, the Gospels that we have today in English are based on over 5,200 Greek manuscripts, all agreeing to an infinitesimal degree. Sir, there is no document from antiquity that can even approach the New Testament Gospels in manuscript evidence. So the overwhelming evidence is the Gospels are accurate historically. Gnosticism teaches the physical is evil, the spiritual is good. Obviously, Christ and the entire Old Testament, Torah, and 27 New Testament books contradict that. Christ and the Bible teaches both your body and your spirit are good because God created both. So that's why, because they contradicted what Christ taught, they contradicted the Old Testament. That's why the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Peter were not accepted in the New Testament canon.
All right.
Also, they were not written until the 2nd century.
All right.
The Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were written in the 1st century.
So are you aware of what the creation story of Adam and Eve is what we would call a creation myth? And that every culture that has ever existed on this planet also has a creation myth about how we got here. Now, what the Adam and Eve story is an Israeli creation myth, correct?
Okay, you use a fascinating word, myth. What do you mean when you say myth?
It's a way of explaining stuff that we see and can understand, but not sure how it got here. Basically, their idea of how we came here.
Okay.
So that's one version of the creation story. A lot of cultures have similar.
Mm-hmm.
And so then there was a religion built up and based on this particular culture, correct? In this one area of the world. And then it spread, right? Particularly through Paul, right? Now, that's great and all when you have a wonderful, particular set of beliefs, systems, people that, explain stuff that we can't figure out at the time. But the thing that bothers me is that Christianity and paganism got along fine for the first 70 years after Christ's death. Now, you have two systems that have similarities and differences coexisting quite fine. And a lot of the principles and ideas that are taught through ancient paganism mimic what Jesus was also teaching into the Israeli realm. So, I can understand how you'd like to spread your concept and whatnot, but what I do not understand is why you have to denounce and say that everybody else's opinion is incorrect. When indeed there are many, many, many similarities. And what you are getting is based off in text alone. You just claimed that no one has ever seen God, so now we have to play this hearsay game with what other people have written.
No.
And from what...
No, wait. Don't believe in God because the Bible says God exists. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to believe that God exists because the order and design of the universe points to an intelligent mind, because the information in a single the DNA of a single cell demands an intelligent mind. You can't have that kind of densely packed information without having some type of intelligent mind behind it. So I'm not asking anybody to believe that God exists because the Bible says God exists. I think you'd be a fool to believe God exists because a book says so. Instead, I'm asking you to use your reason, observe reality, and realize it's far more reasonable to believe there's an intelligent mind behind the order and design of the cosmos than it is reasonable to believe that it's an accident, by chance.
And what about all the cultures that had similar ideas about creation that were then destroyed by the Christians because the Christians wanted to conquer them?
Well, man, it's very, very simple. When you read the Gospels, you will notice that as Jesus is bleeding and dying on the cross, he looks at his enemies who nailed him to the cross and he prays, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." So you don't have to have a PhD in interpreting the Bible in order to know that if anybody picks up a gun and says, "In the name of Christ, I'm going to blow you away," they are a flaming phony. Because if you say you believe in Jesus, the one who, as he's dying on a cross, prays, "Father, forgive these people who nailed me here," if you think you can pick up a gun and in the name of Christ blow people away, you are one hurting pup. And I don't think you have to have a PhD in the New Testament, guys, to figure that one out.
So what's your opinion on other religions, other cultures, other views of the world, universe?
Well, let's be specific. What are you thinking of?
You could take, say,
Islam.
No, let her speak for herself. What do you mean? Let's take a prevalent American view. What's a prevalent American option to faith in Christ?
there's a broad spectrum of what people believe in.
Broad
You guys-
spectrum.
Yeah. So I'm talking about, say, cultures in the East, say China.
China.
Shinto religion
Okay.
that came out of Japan.
Right.
Yeah, Buddhist and the varying ones.
You bet.
Hinduism that comes out of...
Sure. Okay, let's take Siddhartha Gautama Buddha.
Okay.
When I read the teachings of the Buddha, I learn much. He was obviously a very wise man, right? No question about it. In fact, when you study Buddhism, what you begin to realize is, wow, Buddhism is really based on dealing with the problem of suffering.
True.
Siddhartha Gautama Buddha saw suffering and he said, how are we going to deal with suffering? But the way he deals with it, he deals with it by saying, all right, suffering is a result of desire, so cut your desires off. And then he talks about it really being an illusion.
Yeah, I'm familiar
Right?
with some of those.
Well, I'm sorry, man. I bury people. I visit people dying of cancer. And for me to look into the face of a person who's really suffering and to tell them that this is an illusion, that is to be so out of touch with reality as to be scary. Instead, what Jesus Christ points out is that suffering is very real and it's horrible. That's why Jesus Christ bled and died on a cross, to provide the ultimate solution for suffering, forgiveness and eternal life in a heaven where there will be no more suffering, no more death. So I respect what I can learn, and I learned from Siddhartha Gautama Buddha, but Buddha was agnostic. Buddha never dealt with the question of God.
Yeah.
And my question is it possible to know God? And if it is, how? Jesus Christ says, come to me. I am God revealing myself to you, that I really love you, that you matter to me, I want to connect with you, so come to me. Makes a lot of sense.
Then how can you guarantee that the text written by Jesus' followers is truly reflective of what Jesus said? He never actually wrote anything.
Yep. All right, I'll let you know the secret.
Now you have the...
I obviously am not a Muslim, right? But I can promise you, ma'am, if someone wants to try and convince me that Muhammad never existed, or if someone wants to convince me that the Quran is not accurate, I'm going to have to look them in the face and say, I'm sorry. The overwhelming historical evidence is that Muhammad really did live from approximately 570 to 633 AD. And secondly, the Quran has been carefully preserved over the past 1,500 years.
Yes.
That's what the evidence points to. Similarly, if someone wants to tell me that Jesus Christ never really existed, that he really never died on a cross, that he never really rose from the dead, I'm going to have to say, I'm sorry. The historical evidence is he lived, he taught, he died, and he rose from the dead. Now you've got to make a decision. Does the evidence point to him being reliable? If it does, put your faith in him. Or does the evidence point to him not being reliable? If it does, reject him. Are you finished, man? I like your thinking. I thank you for respecting me enough to think with me. Thank you.
Alright, then what about all the things that were never recorded, the things that were never said?
Good point.
You only have like 1% of the information. Do you ever want to see the biggest botch you ever in the world? Look at your history books.
Good.
History is what people want you to think and want you to see. It is not what really happened.
Story.
Ooh.
His story.
Really? You really believe that?
Well,
Really believe that? That there's nothing you can know historically?
you can get a lot of evidence, but there's also a lot of cover-ups. There's
All right.
a lot of power.
Fine.
There's a lot of corruption.
Yeah, I had to debate a man who was maintaining that the Holocaust never occurred, that the Holocaust was a Jewish plot to garner Gentile sympathy. Do you agree with him? You think the Holocaust took place? Or do you think the Holocaust is just a myth that Jewish people made up?
I'm pretty sure that one happened.
History is a reliable source of knowledge. That's why you have the history department.
God would have to be more complex than us, correct?
Correct.
So who created God if something as complex as us requires something as complex as intelligent design?
Very good question. Very hard question. All right, now, I have to ask myself the question, what is around in the beginning? In other words, what is eternal? I only know 4 options. If you know of another one, please tell me. First option, in the beginning there was nothing. My problem with that option is the only thing you get from nothing is nothing. You never get something coming from nothing. Second point, second option. In the beginning, there's matter and energy. Matter and energy are eternal. The Big Bang at this point shows us no, matter and energy are not eternal. The universe is not eternal. There is a beginning. Third option. In the beginning, there's an intelligent mind who creates this complex watch, sets it ticking, and is aloof, disengaged. Deism. Deism. Fourth option. In the beginning, there's an intelligent mind who creates this complex universe and actually loves you and loves me. That's what Jesus insisted is true.
So this internal intelligent design that's more complex than us,
Yes?
that exists for eternity,
Eternity?
creates something as complex as us.
Yes?
We're less complex than it.
Yes?
And we require it to exist, something that is more complex than us.
Yes?
It's redundant.
No, it's not
Yes,
redundant.
there is. There's a contradiction there.
No, there's no contradiction
If
there.
we require to be created by something that's more complex than us, then that something must have been created by something that's more complex than it.
Nope, absolutely not. It is possible to have it's
just
possible
exists.
to have an uncaused cause.
Then you're assuming that it existed.
No, you're not.
You're,
No, you're not assuming. I gave you, look, you haven't been honest with me, sir, intellectually. I gave you 4 options. I said if you have another option, please give it. And then I asked you, what is the most plausible option from your perspective? So either give me the 5th option or tell me what's the most plausible option.
I'd say the Big Bang. It makes the most sense.
Okay. Now, Einstein used to think matter and energy are eternal. So he had that second option. But you see, sir, what the Big Bang does is, the Big Bang says, I'm sorry, matter and energy are not eternal. And when Einstein began to understand that, he had to convert from atheism to theism. Because the Big Bang shows us matter and energy are not eternal. There's a beginning.
Einstein was never claimed to be a theist. He never, when he referred to God in his quotes, it was not the type of God that you're referring to.
I know that.
Okay. And then,
But yes, he did become a theist. He moved from pantheism, which is a belief that nature's God, to theism when Arno Penzias and others began to show him that indeed the Big Bang is true. The evidence points that way. And he converted to theism. You're right, he didn't believe in Christ, that's for sure. In fact, he really wasn't a devout Orthodox Jew either. But he had to acknowledge that there is a creator because matter and energy are not eternal.
but there's still the problem where if we're too complex to have, we're so complex we had to be created, then something more than complex than us had to be created also.
No, it didn't have to be created. It's possible that that being is eternal, an uncaused cause.
And you have faith that it was always there.
No, you ask yourself, what is the best, most reasonable, most plausible explanation?
So, what it could be is that our universe is ever expanding.
Yes, it is.
All right.
That's why we know there was a Big Bang, because of the expanding universe.
Exactly. Thank you. There was a Big Bang. Period.
No. Not period. The Big Bang shows us that matter and energy are not eternal. There is a beginning. About 15 billion years ago, there is a beginning. Guess what, guys? Everything that has a beginning has a cause.
Why is that cause?
The universe has a beginning, therefore the universe has a cause. One more time. Everything that has a beginning has a cause. Second point, the universe has a beginning, therefore third point, the universe has a cause.
I am nothing but chemicals.
Bravo!
We came from chemicals. I'm saying that we were created from amino acids, a bunch of energy, a bunch of atoms. Exactly.
Yep.
I do not ever preach to anyone that there is going to be something that is after life.
Very
I'm not
good.
going to take hope away from anyone.
Very
I
good.
do not preach my views.
So
But
what does your girlfriend mean when she looks you in the face and says, I love you?
literally, I've told this to her and she was pissed off.
Yeah.
She's like, you heartless bitch.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's nothing
Good.
but a series of chemicals.
You know, I really like you. I respect your intellectual consistency. All right? But it's hard to meet someone who's willing to be as consistent as you. That's very good. You're absolutely, and that's what Camus, that's what Sartre, that's what Nietzsche had the courage to face.
I have a question.
Now, my point to you, though, sir, is,
Yes.
are you really, really living it out? What I mean is this.
Okay.
Look at the way you're dressed.
Yes,
I assume you're a student here.
I am.
Okay. Aren't you in the process of attaching a fair amount of meaning, significance,
Yes.
to your life and to the lives of others?
Yes.
Why?
Because the way the evolution happened was humans evolved in groups of tribes, in groups of people, nomadic people. This is way back in the Bible if you want to look at it. And people, with our chemicals, we really need to have other people around us. Why do you think everyone here has a cell phone? Because we're trying to be connected to the world. And what I'm doing, I'm actually a nursing student. I'm being connected to all of my patients every single time I greet them and say, how can I help you flourish today?
Good.
And when I go up to them, all I'm doing is giving them more chemicals, aka prescription medications,
Yes.
so that way they are able to function.
Yep.
All right?
Okay.
There are some people who believe that there's nothing more than prayer that can heal them. I'm saying that
Well, I sure don't believe that.
there are some.
Yeah,
I'm
there
not
are
saying
some.
you are.
I know.
But I'm saying there's more evidence behind saying that there is substantial substance that proves that there is more of a connection than faith alone and your health. And that the way we evolved with communities, I have compassion, it's a series of chemicals. There's an imbalance when people get really depressed and really lonely. And then that's where they came out with SSRIs, selective serotonin retake inhibitors.
Yeah.
And it increases the people's energy to thrive and to go out and do new things. It gives them more willingness to socialize.
Right?
All right. So when you said, because I think that we're nothing but a pile of chemicals, what gives me the reason to go out and help other people and socialize? It's because of evolution.
Okay. But still, you've got to answer the question.
Okay.
Why not pull the plug on the patient I'm a nurse to? Why not put arsenic in the bag that drips into their arm? Why do I have to always put what the doctor prescribed medicine?
Well, why did my parents have me?
I don't
You
have
have
the
to
faintest
think about
idea.
that. No, because why do we continue? Why do we choose to continue on to the next generation? Why do we choose?
I don't have the faintest idea why your parents chose. I can tell you why I chose.
Yours, and yours. Why do we choose? Because
Well, for a lot of different reasons.
But we choose to extend and help out and create new life. It's part of
No, come on now.
civilization.
Come on. Wait a second. You know very, very well that if what you say is true,
Yes.
that we're just piles of chemicals,
Yes.
that eugenics
Yes.
makes total sense.
I said love was a pile of chemicals in your brain, right?
Yeah, but eugenics makes total sense if all we are is piles of chemicals.
Yeah.
Because eugenics says we have limited resources, therefore handicapped people do not help us climb the evolutionary ladder, so we will cut out the handicapped people, we'll kill them.
Shark has to murder other fish in order to survive. Now, why would God create something that has to kill other things? Why? If everything is so loving and compassionate, why?
All right, you're getting to a very good point, which is there is a difference between cutting a head of lettuce, and there is some pain there when you cut a head of lettuce.
Yes.
Cutting a cow's head.
Plant has to die or an animal has to die, either or.
Cutting a cow's head versus cutting your head.
Okay.
No. Not according to your worldview.
Yes.
According to your worldview, there is no difference between cutting a head of lettuce, a cow's head, or a human head. We're all just chemicals, right?
We are.
Okay. My worldview is radically different. My worldview says, although the head of lettuce is alive, it is not an animal and it's not a human being. It's of a different order than an animal, and an animal is of a different order than a human.
All right.
Therefore, according to my worldview, it is not an option for me to cut your head and eat your flesh. It is an option for me to eat a cow. It is an option for me to eat a head of lettuce, but not you.
All right. Now, the way I respond to that is when I go up to someone, all right, and I go, hey, let me chop off their head and I can eat them, I think about why can't I just, go cut the head off of a cow and enjoy that? There's a lot more food there. A. B. There's a lot of people who really would not like me chopping off other people's head, as I would not like them to chop off mine.
Right.
I would be going to jail. I do not like that. I like to have endorphins going off in my brain when I'm with my girlfriend, all right? So basically, what I'm thinking is that there are other people who a long time ago, and it's in the Bible, it's a long time ago, that said we should not kill. We need to pull ourselves together and function as a society. And what we need to do is not kill each other. We're here as a group of people. Remember this was before we were all tribes? We need to pull together and outbeat the other species. So what we're doing is we're not trying to kill each other, but we're just trying to survive as a human race. And there's a mutual understanding that I'm not going to go up and chop off Billy Bob Joe's head because I don't want Billy Bob Joe to come and chop my head off.
Okay. So the basis of morality, according to your worldview, is?
Their views. I quite frankly don't want to be hunted. I mean,
okay.
Well, yeah. We'll say that he thinks that all our chemicals, all life is for nothing. Does that take away from his argument? Does that make the, because this started from the whole Big Bang, matter being eternal, stuff like that, as opposed to a loving creator who does that. Does that prove that he's wrong and you're right? That a creator is more plausible than the matter always being there?
I am using reason to challenge you to think about your experience of life. And I am convinced that your experience of life is that love is real. That there's more to love than just a chemical reaction.
Not necessarily, honestly. Like, of course it feels like that. Of course it feels like that, because that's just another mechanism of self replication, of just like life. We always have the innate want to reproduce, to keep going, and that's just a part of that. Like, if you want to get technical, yes, it's all just a bunch of chemicals. All right.
All right.
But now, what I'm saying, like, we'll say that I accept all this, and I'm kind of crazy, but yeah, I guess that's something I will have to think about, and that is really interesting. You made me think about that, but it doesn't make a creator more plausible than matter and energy always being there. In fact, it stays the same that the most simple is the most plausible, and the matter and energy being more simple than the intensely complex creator that can make this, it makes it more plausible. It makes your option 2 more plausible than your option 4 and 3.
I am convinced that if I believe something and I cannot live it out, it contradicts my experience in life. I had better go back and question what I believe, because it doesn't square with reality. If I have to live my life as if there is meaning to life, then I can't be an atheist.
Why not?
Because if there is no God, there is no meaning to life.
I don't believe that at all. Like, our meaning of life is pretty much our want to spread our seed everywhere. That's just a fact of life.
No, sir.
Yes, it is.
No, sir.
every living being reproduces. That's what life is. Now, you can put any spin on it as you want. That's our meaning. That's what we do. That's how we live. It's gotten more complex with society or whatever, but it still doesn't make God more plausible.
Sir, if there is no God, all of reality is matter, material, matter and energy, which means there is no purpose, there's no meaning, because all of reality is lived on the physical level. But anthropology shows us that all human beings have this innate drive to figure out what's the purpose of my life, what's the significance of my life. Does my life have innate worth or does it not? Those innate drives that we have demand an explanation because they're universal. That is why materialism, naturalism, viewing all of reality as simple chemicals is incomplete because it does not describe a humongous part of your experience, your life.
And your belief in an all-knowing God that you pretty much know nothing about in terms of how he did things, that's not incomplete?
See, the problem that I have in talking with you is you jump to conclusions that I'm not asking you to jump to. I'm simply stay right here in the kitchen. Even if it gets hot, stay in the kitchen. The kitchen is your experience and longing for meaning in life, the experience of all of your siblings, your parents, your closest friends, every human being, almost, maybe there are a few exceptions, but almost every human being that you relate to shares this innate drive to understand what's the meaning of my life, what's the purpose. You listen to it in the songs that on the radio, you watch it in the movies. You are consistently confronted by people asking, what's the purpose of my life? Is this a good life that I'm living or is this a bad life that I'm living? Think about it. I have a radio. You ask me, Cliff, is this a good radio? And I say, no, it's not a good radio. And you say, why, Cliff? And I say, because it doesn't open and shut my garage door. I'm being
But it's
stupid.
not designed for that.
Exactly. The guy's a thinker. He's very good. You're exactly right. You see, if you ask me, Cliff, is your radio good? And I say, no, because it doesn't hammer nails straight into a board. That's ludicrous. Why? Because in order to answer the question, is it good? You have to ask the prior question, which is, what's the purpose of the thing? You're exactly right. I like the way you think. So, people are always asking, is this a good person? A bad person? And you've got to ask the prior question in order to answer that question. Well, what's the purpose of a person? And if the purpose of a person is no meaning, then a good person can be Hitler, could be Mother Teresa, could be Einstein, could be a guy who blows people to bits.
Maybe it's the people who follow the rules the right way.
But you see, what are the rules and who defines the rules?
Society.
Okay.
Tribes.
Well, then is it Nazi society? Or is it Saudi Arabian society? Or is it American society?
Wherever you live. Whatever tribe
honestly,
you're with.
it's
Right,
really,
you are consistent. I like it.
It's very depressing. It's very depressing.
Thank you.
Any society, if the Nazis won and Nazis took over the world, then their philosophy would be right and wrong. It's unfortunate.
Speaking German.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's true.
No, I'll tell you why it's not true. Because of Dr. Martin Luther King. Come on, guy, you know what King did. He didn't follow his society. He followed his conscience instead of following his society. And that's why you and I respect him. Because he didn't bow to the status quo. He didn't bow to his culture. He said, guess what, culture? You're wrong. Why? Because I have a conscience, a rational mind, and I know that your racism is wrong.